This is a grown person, teacher, in charge of little kids who tied that mask on her face. This is my problem. We're going to play a clip here, but before we do, this is Brevard County, Florida. And this story, for the two things that I just went through, involves a little girl. In this case, she is a Down syndrome little girl. She's 7 years old. We'll put the link in the show notes. And her dad gets her off the bus one day. She climbs down off the bus, and we'll listen to the story. But they had tied with nylon rope a mask to her face. She's 7 years old. She's nonverbal. And they tied a mask to her face. And it turns out the mask is super tight, and it's all stuffed full of saliva, and the little girl can't defend herself. If you go on the show notes, you'll see the video. We'll make sure you post it, Billy, and you can see the video. And it will show you just how tight it is tied on her head. And they had done this for 6 weeks, as it turns out, and had taken it off of her head. And every time, ostensibly so that dad did not catch it, the parents didn't catch it, is all I can assume.
Wouldn't she need to wear it on the bus ride home?
It makes no sense. They put it on her for 6 weeks and take it off of her. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
And so we'll just play this link, or we'll just play this video. It's about 2 minutes long. You guys can hear the story, and then I'll give you my thoughts on it.
There's a special place in hell for these people who have done this to this man's daughter.
The concerned parent says a teacher tied a mask around the face of his special needs daughter.
The mask was quite tight on her face, which was, of course, obstructing her ability to speak and her ability to breathe.
Well, that father is blaming the school mask mandates for his daughter Sophia's suffering.
Fox 35's Holly Bristow spoke with him today, and Holly, he's hoping change comes as a result of what happened to his daughter.
He certainly is, and tonight he tells me that he's speaking out in hopes that this does not happen to another special needs child. He tells me his daughter with Down syndrome is non-communicative and was unable to tell her parents that this was even happening.
I was quite angry, so I waited 4 days from the Thursday the 7th until Tuesday after Columbus Day to go in and speak, because I really needed to calm down.
Jeff Steele is talking about his family's reaction when his 7-year-old Sophia, who suffers from Down syndrome, came home from Ocean Breeze Elementary School with a mask tied around her head.
When this child got off the bus and had the mask, it was tied around the back of her head underneath her ponytail. And it was quite tight around her face.
He says it was tied so tight she struggled to talk and even breathe.
Medically, it's very dangerous for her to do that. She could aspirate, she could asphyxiate, all sorts of medical things that could happen as a result of that, which would then forcing her breathing because of her enlarged tongue. It could also cause seizures.
The father says he always assumed Sophia was exempt from the mask mandate because of her disability. He's furious no one from the school ever called him.
Why in the world, since the mandate happened back in September and you were going to begin to put this on my child and now then tie it on my child, would you never pick up the phone and call me and ask me to give me my informed consent, which never happened, which legislation and the IEP requirements require them to do, and they did not follow that.
State Representative Randy Fine weighed in on this situation.
There's a special place in hell for these people who have done this to this man's daughter.
Fine blames school board members who voted for mandatory masks, namely Jennifer Jenkins.
You watch a state representative say there's a special place in hell for me on television is disturbing.
We reached out to Brevard County Schools about this situation. Here's what they said to us. The student was given a mask exemption as soon as the parents made the request to the school leadership. The school district is investigating the allegations made by the family. BPS strives to ensure each student has the best educational experience possible and will continue in that effort. For now, live in studio, so Holly Bristow, Fox 35
everybody,
News.
You get the point. Blah 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 about the educational experience, all the rest of that. That's a whole nother show. But the part that I take away from that, the part to listen to, the part that scares me, and the connection, albeit however small, with Nazism and what happened with the Jews, and why I even bring that up is this is a grown person, teacher, in charge of little kids who tied that mask on her face. This is a grown, experienced, educated principal, if the story's to be believed, that tied that thing on that little girl's face. The little girl who can't communicate. Forget about. What I want is us to think about what kind of human being we have living, what kind of human beings we have living among us, and what they will do. Now, this is just a principle at some tiny burg in the middle of Florida. Florida, super conservative. They didn't have a mask mandate, by the way, statewide. The county's not supposed to have one because they outlawed it on the state level. So there wasn't even a mask mandate in place. The little girl with special needs, she's down, so her tongue is bigger, right? So she needs all the air she can get on top of it. Clearly, she wouldn't take her mask off. I wonder why she wouldn't keep her mask on. Or clearly, she wouldn't keep her mask on. I can't imagine why. She's exempt from it based on all the rules. And yet these zealots, these ideologues, theoretically the ones watching out for our kids, theoretically the people who we put in charge of our children during the day, the ones who are supposed to be the best of the best, the heroes, we're told, and I've always, since I was a kid and since my parents were kids, the teachers are heroes. The heroes, the principal is an administrator, and you can just hear his interview now. I've been working in public education for elementary school for 30 years, and I've dedicated my entire life to the betterment of children and the education, and everything I've ever done and everything I've ever said is all in the general welfare and the improvement in the well-being of elementary school teachers, right? You can hear that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And you can hear some reporter sit there and never question him on and just shake his or her head like a puppet and go, yes, that's true, and never push him back, right? Because how can you assail a guy who's got 30 years as a teacher in society the way we've crafted it for ourselves today? So this society has made it so that these teachers believe that they are above reproach, that they can do whatever it is that they feel morally justified to do. And in this case, they took a 7-year-old Down syndrome little girl who cannot speak, whose tongue is already swollen because of her ailment or affliction, and tied a mask to her face with a nylon rope. To me, as a father, as a son, as an employer, as a man, as a human, with all of those things being said, and someone who came back and saw the worst that the world can throw at you as a kid, I don't have words. There's no connection. That's why I said I'm loath to go to the similarities. But where does that come from? What kind of human being goes, I don't care what the rule is, even though the rule is not what they thought it was, right? They're so ideologically driven. They're so empowered because of what they believe. They feel like they can do no wrong because they are in the right. That person, the do no wrong, in the right, out to save society, nothing but sympathy, nothing but empathy, only here to help, tied a mask on a little girl. That person, those people, those teachers, anyone who would do that, and we got 100 other examples just like this is just the one that hit the airwaves and made the most noise. If it happened to one, it's happened to 5,000.
Yeah.
Those people scare me more than any serial killer. They scare me more than any criminal. They scare me more than any gangbanger, drug dealer. Those people, these people here that would do that to a little girl, scare me more than anything because they're the same people that'll march you around back if they thought they have moral superiority and end it for you because that's the greater good. That's the final solution. And if you don't have, I'm not emotional. We all know this. I have two emotions. I got chill and I got anger. I don't have much either direction, either or. But so it's easy for me to get, in this case, just want to drive to Florida and pull someone's tongue out. It just is. I want to treat the adults. Anybody doesn't know me, I'm 6'4" and 250 pounds. I want to go down and treat the adult like they treat the child. I want to go down and tie something to their head in the way that I would do it, nice and tight, right? And let them experience for 2 seconds what that little girl experienced. I mean, that is what we are, and I'm not alone, and that is what scares me. That's in today, with everything that's going on, government overreach, it's the people. That government overreach has to be effectuated, I should say, by a person, right? There has to be people making decisions for these things to happen. We see it where the cops, mace some dude sitting on the ground because he doesn't have a mask on. Or they grab the guy's little girl. We've talked about that one. Australia's just been completely blown up. But there's ones here. There's ones here where we did the one where the 16-year-old girl was in school, right?
Yeah.
And they locked the school down like it was a mass shooter event. And so the point in all of this, bringing this all the way around, we talked cigarettes, we talked NRA, we talked the Nazis, and we bring this around to Brevard County, Florida, if memory serves me, and this little girl, and say, out of all of the things that worry me relative to COVID, business aside, society's greatest regret, I think that historians will look at, will be the behavior of the minority who were working from the perspective of not freedom, but right. And the person who thinks that they are right, morally justified, historically speaking, always do the worst things, always commit the worst atrocities. And I think that's where we're starting with this.